NBA postseason awards and playoff predictions. We freaking made it. You see the shirt. Is it foreshadowing? Maybe. Maybe not. Welcome in. Episode 8. Word of the Weiss. Official NBA awards for the 2022-2023 season and official 2023 playoff predictions. Getting this episode out was a bit of a struggle, so we were supposed to do this, and by we I mean me, Saturday morning before the game started, before any playoff game started, as makes sense with playoff predictions. But technical difficulties came, and I was unable to record Saturday due to missing a piece needed to make this happen, and I went to Best Buy to get it Saturday afternoon, and it was not there either, so I had to order it on Amazon. Shipped yesterday, picked it up from the leasing office here today, and here we are. A couple games already went by, but I will not let that affect any of my predictions. I have them all in my computer. They have been set since Friday, and that is what we're going to go off of. Now, of course, I will mention things that have happened in the games we have seen, but that will not affect my predictions because, as you know, as you should know at least, once the playoffs start, there is no changing your predictions, as is with March Madness or the NFL playoffs or any other sports tournament. So, as we do with all episodes, let's first get started with what is not on today's show. Episode 8, Word of the Weiss. Whether you are watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, thank you, like, comment, subscribe, follow the socials, all of that good stuff. What is not on today's show, NBA official postseason awards and playoff predictions. Buda Baker requests a trade from the Arizona Cardinals. Saquon Barkley doesn't sign the franchise tag with New York. Commanders owners Dan and Tanya Snyder are nearing a deal to sell the team. Today, Jalen Hurts, 5 years, $255, $180 guaranteed. Love that for him and the Eagles. Alex Fudge, Gators forward, sophomore transfer from LSU, is now declaring for the NBA draft and foregoing the remainder of his college eligibility. Mavs fined $750,000 for resting Luka and Kyrie versus the Bulls. That's not going to say anything about that, but it's a hefty penny. Raptors. Rumors are the Toronto Raptors are going to rebuild this offseason. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, where are these guys going to go? Miles Bridges serving a 10-game suspension to start the 23-24 NBA season, and then after that, presumably returns to the Hornets. We'll see. But that report came out since last time we met. Kevin Ollie, 2014 UConn champion head coach, interviewing for the Detroit Pistons job that Dwayne Casey stepped down from. Houston Rockets interviewing Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson, who was a head coach during the D'Angelo Russell, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, Brooklyn Nets days, back before the failed super team era. NBA play-in games. We're not going to dive really too deep at all into the play-in games and what happened. What I will say, though, is if you watched episode 7, you know my predictions were Lakers 7 seed in the West and Timberwolves 8 seed. Got that. In the East, I said 7 seed Miami, 8 seed Atlanta. So swap those. So I got the 4 teams right who were going to make it. But I did think Miami was going to beat Atlanta. I'm happy I was wrong. And we will get into that. But that is the play-in games. And round 1 games that have happened. So game 1 for every series has happened at this point. We're not going to get really too deep into those games. When I get to my playoff predictions at the end of the episode, we will, of course, mention things that have happened, injuries. But I'm not going to get too deep into the game ones because what this episode is going to be is what it was supposed to be Saturday. And obviously, I wouldn't have talked about any game ones on Saturday because they wouldn't have happened yet. And finally, one of the worst sports takes I've ever heard is going viral on Twitter right now because of some of those injuries we did see Giannis and John Morant specifically in those game ones. Ban the charge. I could go for a long time about this, but that's a different conversation for a different day in an episode that is not already jam-packed with stuff to talk about. But that is a people say taking a charge isn't a basketball. Yes, you go in a game, not even an NBA game, go in a high school game and try to take a charge. I mean, my old team, the coach used to literally hand out free drinks, Gatorade bottles, or give out prizes for players that took charges. It's not easy to do. It is a skill to take a charge and have it not be a blocking foul. So that's just, yeah, it sucks that players get hurt from it, but control your body on the way up and down. Look, ban the charge, horrible take. Won't get too deep into that. So, what will be on today's episode? I will be giving my all NBA teams, my third team, my second team, my first team. We are going to go into the clutch player of the year, the coach of the year, rookie of the year, most improved player, sixth man of the year, defensive player of the year, and of course, the MVP of the 2022-2023 NBA season. Who is my pick? We're going to get into all that. And then after that, we are going to do my official NBA playoff predictions, winners of every series all the way until we have a champion. So, with all of that said, with everything laid out, let's get into my Zachary Weiss's fictional ballot for the NBA 2022-2023 season. Now, one day, maybe this won't be a hypothetical ballot. Maybe I'll have one. That's the goal. But this is going to be my first go-around at it, live, for an audience. So let's see what I got. Here we go. Now, honorable mentions for the All-NBA teams. Guys who I did not include on first, second, or third team, who were the toughest omissions to leave out. Now, I will preface this by saying I did not include anybody on my All-NBA teams who missed the playoffs, and that reasoning is twofold. First, if you are a top 15 player in the league and or a top 3 to 6 player at your position, you should be able to make the play-in, at the very least. And some of these guys didn't. One of these guys did. Second reason is I just think the players ahead of them had better seasons by the combination of winning and individual performance. Guys who did not make my All-NBA teams, 3 honorable mentions. They're all guards. They're all from the Western Conference. First, Luka Doncic. I love Luka all the way up until this season. I have been you could argue he's the best player in the world type of guy, but he just keeps getting worse defensively. This was the worst defensive season of his career. They missed the play-in, went 7-15, I believe it was, post Kyrie. That is not all on Kyrie. That is not all on Mark Cuban. That is not all on Luka. But each one of them deserves a good amount of blame for it, and he is included in that. Luka, honorable mention. Second honorable mention for my All-NBA teams. Damian Lillard. Much of the same reasoning. You gotta make the play-in. Incredible season from Dame. Arguably the best of his career. I wouldn't say so, but the numbers don't lie. He was great. The team wasn't. You gotta make the play-in. Number 3, the toughest to leave off an All-NBA team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Such a great season, but I just feel like there were 6 guards better than him when you take the combination of winning and individual performance. So, you know what? There are a couple other guys who I actually do want to give honorable mentions to. Now, I forgot to mention that because they are not guards and they are not guys who missed the playoffs. So there are a few others. I'll run through them quickly. Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, Drew Holiday, Kevin Durant, 47 games played, and Kawhi Leonard. Now, for all of them, they all had great seasons. Their teams all made the playoffs, but I believe that there were players better than them at their position for all three teams. All right, let's get into it. My third team All NBA guards: Jalen Brunson and James Harden. Jalen Brunson, 24 points, 6 assists, 50, 40, 83 efficiency from the field, 50% from the field, 40% from three, 83 from the line in 68 games played, leading the Knicks to a 5 seed in the playoffs. You could argue Jalen Brunson had the biggest impact this season out of all the players who were added to a new team. James Harden, 21 and 11, led the league in assists on 39% from three. He was obviously second fiddle in the cog to a machine that led to the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. The fact that he didn't make the All-Star team is kind of wild to me. James Harden is my second guard on my All-NBA 3rd team. Forwards: LeBron James and Jaren Jackson Jr. LeBron at age 38, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 50% shooting from the floor. And the reason that he is 3rd team rather than 2nd or 1st is simply because he only played 55 games and because the Lakers finished as the 7th seed. Would have been higher, numbers are there, but team performance brings him down to my 3rd team. Jaren Jackson Jr., the best defender on a top 5 defense. The Grizzlies, number 2 seed in the West, played incredibly well when Ja Morant was out for that extended period of time, and he averaged nearly 20 points per game on the season. The Grizzlies are not where they are, not even close to where they are, without the season that he had, both on the defensive end and as a whole, to help lead that team in a season with a bit of turmoil with the whole Ja Morant situation to the 2 seed in the Western Conference. 3rd team center, Domantas Sabonis. If you know me, you know how I feel about Domas. I loved it when the Kings traded for him, and he has just been so incredible for this team. The league's best offense. He, outside of Jokic, is arguably the best passing big in the NBA. He averaged 19 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, led the league in double-doubles, 61% from the field in 79 games played. Tough to leave Anthony Davis out, tough to leave Bam out, but obviously the 1st and 2nd team centers are locked in, and Domantas Sabonis is my 3rd team center for All-NBA. So, 3rd team All-NBA: Jalen Brunson, James Harden, LeBron James, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Domantas Sabonis. My 2nd team All-NBA: at the guard positions, Ja Morant and Steph Curry. Ja, 26 points, 8 rebounds on the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. Not 1st team because obviously the games missed hurt him. Not just because of the reason he missed the games. That's a very small portion of it in my eyes, if any at all. But just the fact that he missed all of those games, that as itself is close to bumping him enough down for me. And he wasn't very efficient, 47% from the field, just 30% from three. But he was the leading piece in the machine that was the Memphis Grizzlies this season. Unstoppable. Hope he's good for game 2 of this Lakers series. He is my first guard on 2nd team All-NBA. Steph Curry, nearly 30 points per game on 43% from three. Injured for part of the season, but like Ja, wasn't quite enough to bring him down to 3rd team, but was enough to bump him down from 1st team. Forwards for my 2nd team All-NBA: Jaylen Brown and Julius Randle. Jaylen Brown, 27 points per game to go along with 7 rebounds in 67 games played for the 2-seed Celtics. Julius Randle, 25 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 4 assists in 77 games played. Much of the same reason as Jalen Brunson making 3rd, Julius Randle makes 2nd. I believe the guard spots are a little more competitive than the forward spots this year, which is why Julius Randle gets second team, Jalen Brunson gets third team. My second team center will be announced once we get to the MVP, because I will tell you now, my second team center and my first team center, the second team center came second in my MVP race, and the first team center came first in the MVP race for me. So those will be announced very soon. First team All NBA, who I believe were the two best guards this season, who I believe were the two best forwards this season, and as will be announced in a bit, who I believe the best center in the NBA was this season. Now, at guards, in my first team All-NBA, you have De'Aaron Fox and Donovan Mitchell. De'Aaron Fox, the leader of the best offense in the league, one of the best defensive guards, a very, very underrated defensive guard in the league, the clutchest player in the league, in the cog of the machine that was the Sacramento Kings this season. For all the reasons Domantas Sabonis made third team, De'Aaron Fox makes first. Center position, you only get 3 of them with the way the NBA teams are formatted, all NBA teams are formatted right now, so that's why he was down in third team. But with the guards, I feel like De'Aaron Fox had one of the two best seasons in the NBA when you take into account games played, individual performance, and team success. Donovan Mitchell, much of the same reasoning, games played, individual performance, team success. You could argue he is the guy that you can argue with Jalen Brunson made the biggest impact on a new team this season. We saw what he did in Game 1 against the Knicks, but that isn't taken into consideration with these awards. But Donovan Mitchell, what he's brought to the Cavs in his first year there, leading them to a 4 seed in a very top-heavy Eastern Conference, he is first-team All-NBA in my eyes. Forwards, fairly easy. Jason Tatum and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Tatum and Giannis, both top 4 MVP candidates in my eyes. I mean, Tatum and they just keep... There's really not enough you can say about Jason Tatum and Giannis Antetokounmpo at this point. Giannis 1 seed in the East, Tatum 2 seed in the East. Clearly both the leaders of their respective teams. They are my first team forwards. So, let's run it back. And let me say now, the reason that my All-NBA teams are formatted the way they are, you get 1 center on each team, 2 forwards, and 2 guards. That is the way the All-NBA teams have always been formatted. That is the way they are formatted this season. That is changing next season. So if it were next season, if the new CBA to where All-NBA teams are positionless was a thing right now, Embiid and Jokic would both be first team. But that's not currently the way the teams are constructed. Having them both first team right now is cheating. And that is why one is first, one is second. And that is why the teams are formatted the way they are, because I'm following the rules of the All-NBA teams that is current for the NBA until next season. Third team, Jalen Brunson, James Harden, LeBron James, Jaren Jackson Jr., Domantas Sabonis. Second team, Ja Morant, Steph Curry, Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle, and TBD. Or it's already been determined, but to be announced. First team, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and my MVP, which will be announced in just a few minutes here. All right, let's get into some NBA awards, starting with the Clutch Player of the Year. The candidates, the final candidates for this award are De'Aaron Fox, Jimmy Butler, and DeMar DeRozan. I already mentioned his name earlier. He is first-team All-NBA in my opinion, the starting point guard on that first-team All-NBA, and the winner of the Clutch Player of the Year, De'Aaron Fox. So, D-Fox led the league in total clutch points this season, and clutch points, how it's defined by the NBA, is points scored in the last 5 minutes of a game in which the score is within 5 points. So, he shot 55% in the clutch. And the Kings were 21-13 in those games that were defined as clutch games. So not only did he lead the league in efficiency and total points in the clutch, but his team won the majority of their games in those situations. De'Aaron Fox is my clutch player of the year. Coach of the year candidates were Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Mark, I hope I pronounced this right, Daignault, Boston Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla, and Mike Brown, Sacramento Kings head coach. My winner for the coach of the year is Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Brown. And the way I look at this is you take each of the three teams, the Kings, the Celtics, the Thunder, and compare expectations to reality. The biggest gap is where my award goes for this. Now, the Thunder are tough. Thunder expectations were bottom of the barrel. And they made the play-in and fought hard for a playoff spot. But the Sacramento Kings expectations were down there as well. And they finished as the 3 seed in the Western Conference. Expectations to reality gap was far wider than it was for the Thunder. While I do respect what the Thunder did, and I mean, clearly their head coach is a worthy candidate, my winner is Mike Brown. Now, for Joe Mazzulla, the idea is that, everything that happened with Ime Udoka, but you take expectations, the Celtics' expectations before the year were still as a favorite and a top 2 or 3 seed in the East. Credit to Joe, credit to his team, credit to everyone that they accomplished their expectations. They met their expectations. Their reality met their expectation, but the gap wasn't there like it was for Mike Brown and the Sacramento Kings. My winner for Coach of the Year. Rookie of the Year candidates were Utah Jazz center Walker Kessler, Oklahoma City J-Dub, and Orlando Magic forward Paolo Banchero. My winner for Rookie of the Year, and while Walker Kessler and Jalen Williams had great years, it is Paolo Banchero. I mean, this guy just 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 72 games played. Now, Jalen Williams was more efficient, but the Thunder, people's argument for Jalen Williams is, look at the Thunder made the play-in. The Thunder won 6 more games than the Magic this year. So to me, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, it means 6 games worth, which isn't enough to swing the pendulum because Paolo, beginning to end, was the best rookie in this league. J-Dub, had a fantastic last month or two of the season and really helped lead his team along with SGA and Josh Giddey into the play-in. But Paolo Banchero was the best rookie in this league beginning to end this season, and he is my winner for Rookie of the Year. Most Improved Player candidates were Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Jalen Brunson, the New York Knicks, and Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz. And similar to Coach of the Year, my thought process with this pick is expectations to reality. Where were you before the season started, and where are you now? And the biggest gap as far as that's concerned, in my eyes, is Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz. Before this season, people really thought he might be cooked. I mean, you think about when the Wolves drafted him at number 7 in 2017. His comp was Dirk Nowitzki, and he was all right with the Bulls, but he never really found his role and lived up to that hype. And before this season, nobody expected this. Now, Jalen Brunson has had a season beyond what I could have thought he was going to have. But he was really, really damn good with the Mavericks last year. And yes, people said he was overpaid with the Knicks, but people knew he could really play. SGA, obviously, people knew he could play. He improved, no doubt. Jalen Brunson improved, no doubt. But Lauri Markkanen was a guy, he wasn't a household name before this season. And then he averaged 26 points and 9 rebounds on 50% from the field and 40% from 3. I don't take winning too much into consideration when it comes to this award. So obviously, if I did, that would have hurt Lauri and Markkanen a lot more than it would have hurt Jalen Brunson and SGA. But individually, I think he just improved from where he was to where he is now, more so than either of the other two candidates. Lauri Markkanen is my most improved player. Sixth man of the year. Now, this one was really, really tough because Malcolm Brogdon, Emmanuel Quickley, and Bobby Portis all had fantastic seasons off the bench for their teams. But one of them, they all averaged around 15 points per game. And one of them had efficiency unlike the rest. One of them had games played higher than the rest. But one of them had a combination of both that I believe superseded him above the other two. So my winner for the NBA Sixth Man of the Year is Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks. So he played 70 out of 82 games this season, averaged a double-double, 14 points, 10 rebounds on 50% from the field and 37% from three. With Chris Middleton in and out of the lineup all season, they needed him to have the season he had. They needed the production they got from Bobby Portis, and they got it, and it helped lead them to the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, Malcolm Brogdon's efficiency was through the roof, 44% from three. Emmanuel Quickley played 81 of 82 games. Both of those guys were really just fantastic for their teams and were a part of the reason that their teams finished as the 2 seed for the Celtics and the 5 seed for the Knicks. But with Chris Middleton in and out, averaging a double-double in limited minutes, Bobby Portis helped leading the Bucks to that 1 seed along with, of course, Giannis and Jrue. He is my sixth man of the year. Defensive Player of the Year candidates are Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Brook Lopez. So, this one was also pretty damn tough. But what I ended up rolling with was the guy who led the league in blocks by over half a block, Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies. 3 blocks per game on a top 3 defense. Yes, Evan Mobley and the Cavs were the number 1 defense in the league, but he was 9th in blocks. And yes, Brook Lopez did lead the Bucks to the 4 seed, or not the 4 seed, to the 4th ranked defense in the league. But you look at who these guys are behind. All 3 of them are bigs. Evan Mobley, 9th in blocks, as I said. Brook Lopez, he's playing behind Jrue Holiday, and he has Giannis right next to him. Jaren Jackson Jr. is far and away the best defensive player on that team. I know Dylan Brooks can guard, but what Jaren Jackson Jr. did this season, leading the league in blocks by half a block per game on a top 3 defense, that was enough for me to give him my Defensive Player of the Year over a guy like Brook Lopez, who's playing with Giannis and Jrue Holiday, and over a guy like Evan Mobley, who is 9th in blocks. Jaren Jackson Jr. is my Defensive Player of the Year. And finally, my official 2022-2023 NBA MVP ballot. I'm going to give you my top 5 finishers, 5th, 4th, 3rd, and then 1st and 2nd. 5th place on my MVP ballot, Cleveland Cavs guard Donovan Mitchell. The combination of individual performance, team success, storyline, the fact that he was just moved to Cleveland in order to bring them to a place they haven't been since LeBron, and he did that successfully. He was the leader of that team, not Darius Garland, who can play, not Evan Mobley, who can ball, not Jared Allen, not Karis. Donovan Mitchell was the guy. He stepped in and became that guy as soon as he got there, led them to the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, had a hell of a season, the best of his career. Donovan Mitchell finished number 5 on my NBA MVP ballot. Number 4, Jason Tatum. it is unfortunate for him that he plays in the same league at the same time as Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, because Jason Tatum he might be winning MVPs not too long ago before just recently, because he plays next to such incredibly talented guys. But as it turns out, those three guys all had better seasons than him, in my opinion. And I'm a Tatum guy. I mean, it's tough, but I mean, he was the leading cog in the second seed in the Eastern Conference, had the best season of his career, averaged 30 points per game, the first Celtic since Larry Bird to do that. And when you're breaking Boston Celtics records, you're doing something special. Number 3 on my MVP ballot is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis, much of the same reasons as Jason Tatum, led his team to the 1 seed in the East, had arguably the best season of his career, which is saying something because Giannis is already a 2-time MVP. And just, he is the Milwaukee Bucks. He is everything they do. And when you have that much impact on a team, and that team has as much success as the Bucks have, and you are individually putting up the numbers that he is, you are all but locked into a top 3 MVP spot in my eyes. But these two guys both finished ahead of him in my MVP ballot, and I'm going to go straight to number 1, because I will tell you number 2 is either Embiid or Jokic. Whoever didn't come in first is number 2 on my ballot. So, with that said, I need a sip of water for this. My NBA 2022-23 official MVP pick, Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic, 3-time back-to-back MVP, and that means Joel Embiid, second place for the 3rd year in a row. And for most of the season, I was a Jokic guy. Embiid turned it on towards the end. That game, he had 50-plus against the Celtics on 24-25 from the field. The same night, Jokic had an off game in Houston against Alperen Şengün. That tilted it a lot in Embiid's favor, but at the end of the day, I mean, I look at Jokic and I see the Nuggets won. So first, let's get the games won out of the Embiid's team won 54, Jokic's team won 53. Game winning is even on the season between the two teams. But I look at Jokic and I see the most efficient season of his career, 63% from the floor, 38% from 3. Joel Embiid shot 55% from the field and 33% from 3, which are nothing to scoff at, but Jokic the far more efficient player on the season. I look at Jokic career high in assists with 9.8 assists per game. Jokic played 69 games on the season. Joel Embiid played 66. Embiid averaged more blocks. Jokic averaged more steals. And once again, Nikola Jokic had no all-stars on his team. And during the season as a whole, he was working in Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, guys who were coming back from major injuries. He had to work them in. He had to lead a team with no all-stars, and he led them to an equal number of games won, one behind the Sixers, who Joel Embiid had, along with James Harden, along with Tyrese Maxey, along with Tobias Harris, along with guys who were established. They brought in PJ Tucker. They brought in guys who can play, and they won the same amount of games. Jokic, most efficient season of his career. Jokic, career high in assists. Jokic, no all-stars again, led his team to the 1 seed in the West. Nikola Jokic is my 2022-23 MVP, and I do not take into consideration the fact that he has, if he were to win it, would have won his 3rd in a row. I could give less of, about the past. The past is the past. The NBA MVP award is supposed to be a single season award, and based on his efficiency, based on games won, based on individual numbers, based on him improving from his past MVP seasons, He is my MVP with Joel Embiid in second place. And I'm not going to act like if I think Embiid will win it. I think he'll win it. I think it should be Jokic. But if Embiid wins it, am I going to say this is outrageous? He only got it because of the past seasons in which he finished second, and people feel bad for him, and he's been basically begging for it up to. I mean, you've heard him and Giannis both pretty much beg for it, and Jokic hasn't said a thing. He could care less. So I'm not going to be upset when Embiid wins it because he deserves it. But I would lean Jokic for all the reasons I mentioned. To sum it up very simply, I believe that Jokic had a better season than Joel Embiid this season based on the combination of individual numbers, team success, considering teammates around you, and the storyline of the season, working in Michael Porter Jr., working in Jamal Murray, still finishing as the 1 seed in your conference, still finishing with the most efficient season of your career. No James Harden on that team. No Tyrese Max. It's everything taken together. I believe Nikola Jokic should win the 2022-23 NBA MVP. So, let's run through my awards really quickly, and then we will get into official NBA playoff picks. All NBA team honorable mentions: Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, SGA, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, Holiday, KD, and Kawhi. My third team All-NBA: Jalen Brunson, James Harden, LeBron James, Triple J, and Domantas Sabonis. Second team All-NBA: Ja, Steph, Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle, and Joel Embiid. First team All-NBA: De'Aaron Fox and Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And, of course, my MVP, first team center, Nikola Jokic. Clutch player of the year, De'Aaron Fox. Coach of the year, Mike Brown. Rookie of the year, Paolo Banchero. Most improved player, Lauri Markkanen. Sixth man of the year, Bobby Portis. Defensive player of the year, Triple J. And MVP, Jokic. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fill out my official playoff bracket, who wins each series, in how many games, and I'm going to do it right here live for you. And I am not taking into consideration the game ones. I am giving you my picks that I would have said Saturday, and maybe that's bad for me considering what happened in game ones. Maybe it's good for me considering what happened in game ones. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not changing them, because that's cheating. These are my picks from Friday that I was ready to announce on Saturday's episode. But today, it is Tuesday. This episode will be coming out on Tuesday, rather. But today is Monday, this April 17th at 4. And this will be coming out Tuesday, I'm assuming afternoon probably sometime. But these are my picks that I would have said on Friday before the playoffs began. Start out west, the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. People got to put some respect on Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets name. I just went through the season that Nikola Jokic had and the fact that he was able to work in MPJ and Jamal Murray, and they're both playing great basketball right now. The Wolves are not on the level of the Nuggets. Now, what I would say now, knowing what happened in Game 1 and how the Wolves just looked completely out of their league, the Nuggets are probably going to sweep them. But what I would have said Friday is the Denver Nuggets will beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games. So that is what I'm filling in on my bracket. The Wolves they're not ready for this. Rudy Gobert cannot guard Nikola Jokic. You better hope Gobert doesn't punch another teammate, because Cat guarding Jokic is even worse. I love Anthony Edwards, but the Nuggets are real. They are for real. The disrespect to them it's a bit much. They're not going to lose in round 1 to the 8 seed. Nuggets in 5. Phoenix Suns versus Los Angeles Clippers. Now, Game 1 didn't do me great. But my pick, as would have been Friday, are the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. Now, undefeated with Kevin Durant obviously changed last night, or when the Clippers beat the Suns in game one. But I look at Kevin Durant, a guy who can fit in with any team, anytime, no matter how much they gel or have not gelled. I look at Devin Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton and Torrey Craig and Josh Okogie and Monty Williams and everything they have building there in Phoenix. They were the best team in the league in games Kevin Durant played with them during the regular season. Yes, the sample size is small, but it is what it is, and I trust Kevin Durant excuse me, more than I trust Kawhi. Now, game one looked like Kawhi had something to say about that, but these are my picks from Friday/Saturday, I guess, and I would have the Phoenix Suns beating the Clippers in 6 games. No Paul George. I don't think the Suns have any business losing this series, and I think if they do, it's going to be a lot of question marks surrounding that team this offseason, especially Kevin Durant. Now, the one thing I will say really quickly, though, is if there's anything that worries me about picking Phoenix to win this series, it's the fact that when have we seen Russell Westbrook at his best as the number 2 next to Kevin Durant, as the number 2 next to James Harden, as the number 2 next to Bradley Beal? Where have we seen him at his worst? At the number 3 next to LeBron and AD. What is he right now? The number 2 behind Kawhi because of no Paul George. So I think he could potentially have a great series against Phoenix. I would have said that Friday, Saturday. Last night proved me kind of wrong, kind of right. I mean, really, really bad efficient shooting game, but he kind of won the game for them, which is just a weird thing to think about, but it is true. So Westbrook as the number 2 can really, really affect a series, but I still am picking the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. I believe they're the better team with the best player in the series. I don't see KD taking 15 shots again in the series. Golden State, Sacramento. I would have look. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer in the Beam team. I think the Warriors' combination of pedigree, top players, the fact that they have the best player in this series in Steph Curry, the fact that they have the experience they do going against the least experienced team in the playoffs, the fact that Andrew Wiggins is back, the fact that Gary Payton II is back, the fact that they are both critical defensively to this team. I think Gary Payton and Andrew Wiggins can really, really give De'Aaron Fox a tough time. I think that Draymond Green and Kevon Looney can give Domantas Sabonis a tough time. Game one would have told you otherwise, but these are my picks as I would have gave them last on the weekend before the game started. So Golden State in 5. I'm staying true to what I would have said. That does mean they would have to sweep the rest of the series. If I were to make a revised prediction, it would probably be Golden State in 7, but I am no cheater. I'm a man of integrity. I'm Golden State in 5 games over the Sacramento Kings because of the experience of pedigree, experience, talent, and the resurgence of Andrew Wiggins and Gary Payton II back into that Warriors lineup. Memphis versus LA. Finally, a series in which game 1 helped what I would have said, and that is that the Lakers are going to win this in 6 games. Feels like destiny, man. I don't like it at all. I'm not a Lakers fan. I'm far from it. But God, it just feels like everything's been leading to this team making a deep run. Memphis without Steven Adams and without Brandon Clark you have Jaren Jackson Jr. to guard AD, and then nothing. And then you're screwed. And Jaren Jackson Jr. led the league in fouls this year. So if you can get Triple J in foul trouble early, you have nobody to guard Anthony Davis. Not to mention, your options guarding LeBron are Dylan Brooks and a rookie. So it's just a bad matchup for Memphis. And now with Ja Morant being hurt, that just makes it significantly more difficult. So my pick would have been Lakers in 6. I'm keeping it as that here. Now, though, I'm not sure Memphis is going to be able to last that long. And I just, with Steven Adams and with Brandon Clark, this is a different series, a far different series. And of course, with John Morant healthy as well. But I think without those bigs, and I think with the way the Lakers are trending, I'd be shocked to see them exit in round one. Not to mention LeBron, he just doesn't lose in round one very often. I think he's lost in 2 round 1s in his career, and we know how many times he's been in the playoffs. So I don't think Memphis is ready for everything Golden State has to bring to the table. Lakers in 6. All right, Eastern Conference round 1s. Oh, I'm happy. Oh, man, I like this one. Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks. My pick is the Bucks in 6. Heat look good, though. Heat look good on Heat looked good yesterday, so this is the way I see the series. I did not want to play the Heat in round one, being the Celtics. Um, I'm very happy the Hawks won for 2 reasons. One, the Celtics and the Hawks are they're not going to beat the Celtics. They're not going to give them trouble. The Heat would have. I believe they would have, and now they are to the Bucks. And 3 more to go, Miami. I would love for Miami to somehow beat the Bucks so that we don't have to play the Bucks. That is what I want. So I will be a Heat fan for the next week or two. I still think I mean I picked Milwaukee in 6. I still think they're going to win it in 6 or 7, assuming that Jimmy Butler or sorry, assuming that Giannis is able to play. Obviously he hurt his back. Hoping that he's back for game 2. I think he will be. I think he should be fine. But so I definitely think Milwaukee's going to handle business. They deserve the benefit of the doubt even after losing game 1 to Miami. But I wouldn't mind being wrong. I would not mind being wrong. I think Miami's going to give them some trouble, as they would have the Celtics, because Jimmy Butler is that guy. To the furthest extent of the phrase that guy, he is that guy. And I'm going with the Bucks in 6 games over the Heat. Cleveland, New York. Not great for my predictions. I would have said Cleveland in 5. I just think that they are the far better team. And by far better team, what I mean by that is as far as top talent goes. When I look at Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, those 3 guys, I just don't think Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle and Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes. I think there's a gap there. I trust Donovan Mitchell more than I trust any other player in this series. I trust that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley together will be able to contain Julius Randle. Jalen Brunson is really, really damn good, and I respect him. But I just think when you've Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland lined up on the other end, I think they will be able to outproduce him in every game this series. And remember, these are my thoughts as if they were coming to you Friday or Saturday before we saw game 1. Game 1 would have basically reversed everything I just said. And for me to be right, that would mean the Cavs would now have to sweep the Knicks for the next 4 games, which I don't think is going to happen. I'd expect the series to go 6 or 7, but what I would have said Friday is Cleveland in 5, because I just believe the talent deficit is too big of a gap. And I would have game 1 helped this part at least of my prediction, but I would have said I think Donovan Mitchell could average 40 points per game in this series. I don't see anybody in New York on the Knicks who can stop him. I think he's gonna tear up MSG. So at least that game 1 proved that would have been right. But as far as my Cavs in 5 pick, doesn't look great. So 76ers, Brooklyn Nets. Philly in 6. Now, I see this series kind of similarly to how I see Bucks Heat. I think that the Nets could pull a game or 2 away from the Sixers. Game 1 went about how I would have expected it to. I think Philly is going to win both of the first 2 games. I think it's going to be 2-0 going back to Brooklyn. But I do think the Nets are going to steal one and back home. I think they're going to go back to Philly down 2-1 or tied 2-2. And then I think Philly's either going to win back-to-back or lose the one at home and go win it in Brooklyn. I think Philly will win it in 6. They're clearly the better team. But like Jimmy Butler in Miami, I think Mikal Bridges in Brooklyn could cause some trouble. I think that he's going to guard James Harden, and you can't really... It's tough to stop James Harden, but Mikal Bridges can guard him as well as anybody in the league, I think. And then between Nick Claxton and some of the other guys they have there down low, I think that they could bother Joel Embiid as much as you can. I mean, he didn't have a great game one, but I think the Nets have, with Spencer Dinwiddie as well, I think they have the grit to pull a game or two from Philly. So Philly in 6 would have been my pick Friday, and I'm still feeling good about that. But Philly's the better team. Joel Embiid's the best player on the court. James Harden's the second best player on the court, and Brooklyn just doesn't have enough to really compete with them to the extent of a 7-game series or to the extent of me feeling at all comfortable picking the Nets to win it. Philly in 6. Boston Celtics, Atlanta Hawks. Boston in 4. I would have said that Friday. I'm saying it now. Atlanta's just playing out of their league right now. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray experiment has not worked at all. The talent deficit, the depth, it's just too big of a gap in pretty much every single place you look. Nobody on the Hawks is going to be able to guard Tatum. Never mind Jaylen Brown. I think that the Celtics are the team in the league best equipped to stop Trae Young. When you look at guys like Marcus Smart and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon, you want to put good defensive guards, small guards on him. There you go. You want to put good defensive, bigger wings on him. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Doesn't get much better than that. You want to put a big body on him. Grant Williams. Like, you have guys everywhere from 6'3" to 6'8" that you can throw at him. Good defense, all defense type of players. I think it's the worst possible matchup for the Hawks. Celtics win in 4. All right, second round series. Going back to the Western Conference, Denver versus Phoenix. And I know I just talked about how much we're sleeping on Denver and how good of a season Jokic just had and how he's my MVP and how Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray are back and playing well. They have nobody on that team to really guard Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. They have Torrey Craig, who can guard one of them. They have Josh Okogie, who could guard another. But do you really want both of those guys in at the same time? You can't double Embiid. You can't double KD. Or you can't double Booker, sorry. You can't double KD. One of them is going to go off. You got Chris Paul. Chris Paul is going to pick apart Michael Porter Jr. in pick and rolls. It's going to be the bubble all over again. I do think the Suns are going to take care of the Nuggets. I'm not going to say in 4 or 5 because I respect Jokic and I respect the Nuggets so much, but I think Phoenix wins it in 6. Moving on to the Warriors and Lakers. And this is a tough one. Pretty similar teams when you look at the storyline of the season. When you look at expectations to reality. Of course, the Lakers are a bit different because they pretty much did a 180 with the roster outside of LeBron and AD after the trade deadline. And the Warriors didn't add really anything outside of Gary Payton II, but their turnover was more injury-based. So Steph Curry came back. Andrew Wiggins is now back. And now their guys are, both teams are peaking at the right time. Lakers had a great end of the season. Warriors had not as good end to the season, but they were playing well as things came to a close. And obviously with Andrew Wiggins coming back, that's a huge resurgence in the team. So, and of course, if the Lakers do beat Memphis, if the Warriors do beat the Kings, that would mean that 2 underdogs, as far as seeding goes, just beat the favorites, which makes for a pretty damn good second round series because both teams are going to be riding high on momentum. But my pick for the Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Lakers in the second round, not happy about it. And I'm not confident in it. And you know what they say? Anytime you're not confident in a series, do yourself a favor and pick it in 7. Lakers in 7. I trust LeBron more than I trust anybody else in the series, and that's saying something because you got Steph Curry on the other side. Anthony Davis, I think we've reached a point where I'm not sure what Draymond can really do to contain him. I mean, Draymond is still an incredible defensive player, but he's not the Draymond from 2016 or 2017. It's 2023. Anthony Davis is still in his prime. And if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to cause them fits. I'm not sure. Andrew Wiggins on LeBron is probably close to as good as you can do. But when you look at guys like Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, I mean, you're going to have Gary Payton on one of them, but Steph Curry's got to guard someone. And I just think the Warriors' size and strength, or the Lakers' size and strength, is really going to give Golden State fits. But then again, I'm picking it in 7, so you take that how you want it. But I am going Lakers in 7 over the Warriors in the second round. Eastern Conference second round, Bucks Cavs. Love my guy Donovan Mitchell. Love what the Cavs are building. I think Evan Mobley on Giannis is close to as good as you can do. But with how well Drew Holiday's playing, by the time they get to the second round, Chris Middleton's going to be riding momentum. Hopefully he doesn't stay, or hopefully he continues to up his minutes and return from injury and is back to 100% by the time the second round begins. So I think the Bucks are going to handle the Cavs, but I think this could be a great series. I mean, Drew Holiday on Donovan Mitchell, that's as good as you can do guarding him, and of course Giannis on Evan Mobley. You can't do better than that. And then they got guys who can bother Darius. I think Darius Garland would be the key in that series. If Darius Garland can have a 27 point per game series, I think we could see a big upset. But I'm not picking against Giannis in the second round against a Cleveland team with little to no experience. So I would pick the Bucks in 6. Tempted to pick them in 7. Tempted. But I am going to go Bucks in 6 over Cleveland. Philly, Boston. People are going to take this the wrong way. I'm going to be labeled bias, and I get that. I'm not going to try to defend myself here, but I really just don't think Philly can run with Boston. Now, I'm not going to say a sweep. I'm really, really close to saying in 5, but for just the utter respect for Joel Embiid, God, I want to pick 5, man. I really don't think Philly can handle Boston. I think people underrate how good Boston is. I mean, they are the only team in the top 2 in both offense and defense. I think the only other teams in the history of the league who have finished a season in the top 2 offensively and defensively were the KD Warriors and one team a really long time ago. Maybe it was one of those Pistons teams or one of the Lakers teams, but look, the Celtics, I just think that Philly doesn't have anybody to guard Tatum and Brown. I mean, the Celtics have owned the season series against Philly. They've owned Philly in the playoffs the last few years. Robert Williams is as good as you can do against them. Not as good. I mean, Giannis would be better, and Anthony Davis would be better. But Robert Williams is one of the best defensive bigs in the league. I think James Harden will have a lot of trouble in this series because Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, guys like that. It's tough to find a better group of wings and guards to contain someone like James Harden. Tyrese Maxey, I think, is going to be the key in the series, like Darius Garland against the Bucks. If Tyrese Maxey can come alive and really 27 a game against the Celtics, that could be a series shifter. But top to bottom, I think I think the Celtics are the better team and the better organization. I think we've seen it over the past few years, and I think we've seen it this year when they played each other. I'm go 5 or 6, man. I respect Embiid, but how much? I'm going in 6. Celtics in 6 over Philly, which leaves us with a Final Four, a Western Conference and Eastern Conference Finals of the Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Lakers out west, the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Boston Celtics out east. In the West, KD versus LeBron. We haven't seen them play on a court versus each other since Christmas 2018. Is that the last? No, it can't be that long. It's been a few years since we've seen LeBron and KD go against each other on the same NBA court. So this would be a ton of fun. You got Anthony Davis, LeBron, D'Angelo Russell versus KD, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul. This would be, I mean, I incredible series, just absolutely incredible series. But I think that at this point, 3 series in, I mean, I picked the Lakers to win the first series in 6, second series in 7 over the Warriors, 6 in the first round over the Grizzlies. They will have already played 13 games. They're an old team. How long can Austin Reeves stay this hot for? The Phoenix Suns, when they traded for Kevin Durant, we called them a super team. We said they're the favorites. What's changed? I know he got hurt, but he's back and he's Kevin Durant, and he can fit anywhere with anyone with any amount of time to gel. I would pick the Phoenix Suns to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in 6 games. And what that means is that I have Phoenix making the NBA Finals, going through the Western Conference, winning every series in 6 games. 6 over the Clippers, 6 over the Nuggets, 6 over the Lakers, to meet the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. Celtics over the Bucks in 7. And you know what 7 means. 7 means you're not betting money on it. But you pick a side, I picked a side. I really do think that the Celtics can beat the Bucks. I think the Celtics will beat the Bucks. I think they have been preparing to play the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals for the entire season now. And I mean, what this comes down to is the other guys. Now, you know what Giannis is going to do in this series. You know what Jason Tatum is going to do in this series. What's Jaylen Brown going to do? What's Chris Middleton going to do? What's Drew Holiday going to do? What's Marcus Smart and Derek White are going to? Both of these teams are deep. Both of the teams have superstars leading them. Both of these teams have all-star guys behind, with Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton as well. I think this is as competitive, as good of a series as you will get in the entire playoffs. Milwaukee, Boston, I'm going Celtics in 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. But God, I'm not happy about playing Giannis. Not at all. I never will be. Which is, let's go Heat next week or two. Come on, Miami. But I respect the Bucks enough to. It's gonna be a 7-game series. Tough. Similar to last year. I mean, we saw this series already in an Eastern Conference Finals, and it doesn't get much better than it. But my NBA Finals, coming out of the West, first in 6 games against the Clippers, 6 games against the Nuggets, 6 games against the Lakers. The Phoenix Suns return to the NBA Finals with Kevin Durant for the first time since they lost to the Bucks in 2021. And coming out of the East, in 4 games over the Hawks, in 6 games over the Sixers, and in 7 over the Bucks, we have the Boston Celtics NBA Finals, 2-seed Celtics versus 4-seed Suns. Kevin Durant versus the team he was rumored to go to before he signed with the Warriors. Jason Tatum versus Kevin Durant. You got Marcus Smart and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon versus Chris Paul and Devin Booker. You got Robert Williams versus DeAndre Ayton. The Celtics are the deeper team. The Suns have the best player. 2 really, really good head coaches. It doesn't get better than this. I believe the Celtics are the best team in the East. I believe the Suns are the best team in the West. I think this is a 7-game series. And I think Game 7 in Boston, in TD Garden, Jason Tatum comes back after a pretty poor finals performance last season against the Warriors. The Celtics avenge their loss. Jason Tatum avenges his past performance. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, the Boston Celtics win the NBA Finals in 7 games over the Phoenix Suns. Turns out the shirt, if you're watching on YouTube, you see if you're listening on Spotify, my shirt is a Boston Celtics All About 18 shirt, going for their 18th banner, which when they win it this year will be the league-leading 18th NBA championship for a franchise. I actually got this shirt at Game 4 of last year's finals. It was the shirt that they were giving away on the seats of the game. That game that Steph Curry dropped 50 in and stole in Boston to tie the series up 2-2 going back to Golden State. Then we remember what happened. We don't have to talk about that. But this was foreshadowing. I do have the Celtics winning it all in 7 over the Suns. And look, 7 games series against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, 7 game series against the Suns in the finals. Hey, when it comes to 7 game series, man, when somebody tells you they're going to win it in 7, well, no matter who they are or what series it is, 7 means not confident, but confident enough to pick that team. Looks like something just died, some sort of audio issue. All right, well, give me 1 second for technical difficulties. Are we back?
Bluetooth connected.
And we're back. Sorry about that. All right. So, the Boston Celtics are your 2022-23 NBA champions, according to me. And that is everything from episode 8, Word of the Weiss, my NBA postseason awards and playoff predictions